Before I move on to the video, you should definitely take into consideration that this is of course based on my first impressions of the full season. So like 1 to 2 episodes I've seen of all of these shows that I'm about to talk about. So it's more of a guide, you could say, like for those that haven't really checked out the full season. So this is a more condensed version of shows that I personally would recommend you guys to check out, and which isn't really put in any chronological order in what I like all these shows in. So enjoy.
10.
In a nutshell, boy meets girl, guy meets death, embarrassing milk, blood-made weapons, and an antisocial kawaii girl that the male continues to follow on regardless of getting anything back whatsoever. And Kyoto Animation, I can definitely tell that they're going for this dark kind of setting here, but it's worth giving a shot. I mean, Kyoto Animation really haven't done anything like this, so check it out, I guess.
9.
If you haven't heard of Kill la Kill, you must have been living under a rock, because this show is created by the same people that did Gurren Lagann, so to not give it a shot would be like spitting on Gurren Lagann. So what the series brings us is your stereotypical action shonen feel to the series itself, with its unique style of animation that looks quite sloppy to me so far. The story itself is straightforward, with a high school girl with these big ass half scissors that's on the pursuit to find her father's murderer, with the help of her talking sailor uniform with a mind of its own to transfer her into a kick-ass slutty looking prostitute. Other than that, there's really not much to it in terms of story, but it's worth checking out for you shonen battle lovers out there that love your One Piece, Naruto and Bleach.
8.
With Log Horizon, you pretty much got the same concept as Sword Art Online, with 30,000 Japanese players trapped in a fantasy MMO game. If you ask me to compare this with Sword Art Online, I'm going to have to fucking strangle you. Not because I have a preference of the two, but simply because it's absolutely retarded to compare a finished series to something that's just developing at the moment, especially as Log No Horizon has like an episode or 2 as I'm recording this. I also find it very hard to understand, especially if you're already arguing that Log Horizon is already miles better than Sword Art Online, but nothing groundbreaking hasn't really occurred as of yet. But nonetheless, I do like the fact that we're getting more virtual reality, massive multiplayer online settings, as it's something very different, and for it to be explored through many perspectives, it opens up a door of many possibilities of what can be done with this MMO setting, especially as Sword Art Online couldn't possibly touch on every aspect of the realization of what it's to be like trapped in a virtual reality massive multiplayer online game. Also, don't forget that sick opening.
7.
What we have here is a male lead that the story revolves around Kojo, who was to be observed by the very attractive magician Himeragi, aka a sword shaman. She was sent by the Lion King organization to observe Kojo, the strongest vampire in the world, and to dispose of him whether she sees him as a potential threat. What makes Kojo intriguing is the mystery of his limitations, as his abilities triumph the power of the military, so you can imagine the precautions the government would take to prevent any tragedy from occurring whatsoever. What encourages me to watch this is purely the fantasy and sorcery setting blending in together with the modern day world. I very much look forward to see that kind of action and surprises this series will bring along with its hinted future of many fantasy shots to come and go.
6.
Golden Time is certainly worth giving a shot, especially if you're a fan of Toradora, as it has the same creator behind it. The show really does feel like a breath of fresh air from your cliche high school romance comedic setting that feels way oversaturated now. With this show, we have the over-exaggerated friend that's trying to get away from his girlfriend at any cost, and when I mean any cost, I mean at any cost. The main protagonist, who will obviously develop feelings for his love interest Kuroko, his friend's girlfriend, which could of course lead the story through many stereotypical obstacles with this love triangle that's beginning to take shape. However, seeing this take place elsewhere other than a high school may be able to offer some new light and new perspectives and innovation to this particular type of love story, so hopefully we may be able to get some new innovation that we haven't really seen from many anime series.
5.
Machine Doll or Kizutsukanai manages to accomplish the concept of puppets in a pretty slick way at that. So this takes place in the early 20th century, with science and sorcery combined together to produce a circuit, created from spells that get inserted into any objects to bring them to life. From what I've observed so far, this could range from anything from humans to a friggin' dragon, so the possibilities are endless for what we could see being used as puppets. So for our main lead, we have Akabane Reishin, who's attending the Royal Academy to become the best puppeteer in the world. Alongside with him, we have the female puppet that craves the D so very hungrily from her master, and throws herself at Akabane at any given opportunity. And when I mean any, I mean freaking any. Based on what I've seen from the show so far, the giant scale battles really overwhelmed me, as well as the well choreographed fights. I highly recommend this series if you want to see some awesome cool looking fights take place.
4.
If you like your otaku protagonists and underage looking moe girls in maid outfits, then look no further, as Outbreak Company may be the right anime to take off the edge of all the seriousness of any other anime you may be watching this season. In this setting, we have a fantasy, potential ecchi comedic series with a pinch of slice of life. We have Shinichi, the main guy that's trying to escape and leave his hikikomori lifestyle after his shortcomings in high school. He gets a job in spreading his love for otaku culture in this alternative universe for the Eldent Empire. What makes this premise interesting for me, partly, is the strong emphasis on the hierarchy of society that's in this world, which often triggers flashbacks into seeing glimpses of Shinichi's past with how he was treated as an otaku at high school. So do definitely check it out.
3.
This show certainly lives up to its name. An anime that's being animated by Madhouse and Production IG is simply worth checking out, especially if you're aware of shows like Attack on Titan, Death Note, Kuroko no Basket, Hunter x Hunter, and so on. So based on my first impressions of the show, it felt really refreshing to see a protagonist with an extreme burning passion for his hobby, whilst carrying that sentimental value for his teammates. That in a sense may seem cliche, but I feel that this setting that we have right at the start may juxtapose a bit later on, as we'll see how Agent's transition to an elite high school for baseball will impact the changes in his character. Do check it out, especially if you're looking for something new to try out from what you generally watch from anime.
2.
This show really overwhelmed me. I did not expect the amount of entertainment from what I got from those 23 minutes to be wonderful. And I ain't joking. The story revolves around Kanata, a guy cursed with the ability of absolute multiple choice. So basically, Kanata will get a question with 2 options that will appear in his head, and he has to fulfill one of those choices that's presented in front of him. And the questions that he gets kind of go around the basis of humiliating him, i.e. go all out nude, or strip from the waist down, and you can pretty much guess that he has to fulfill one of these choices, generally in public, and most of the time we see him fulfill it at school. So you can imagine how this has kind of really ruined his chances at getting a normal life as a high school student. So random shit like that has set up many jokes in the series, which really kept me laughing throughout the whole episode. So all these unfair choices for Kanata are particularly very enjoyable to see. Then before you know it, all of a sudden he, of course, with his absolute multiple choice, he wishes for a blonde girl to appear upon him. She claims to have been sent by God to help Kanata fulfill these missions that get sent to him via text messages from God himself to dispel of Kanata's absolute choice curse. So you can definitely tell that there are going to be a lot of enjoyable moments in this series, and given from what we've seen from episode 2, perhaps they may introduce some serious moments to make this series a little more memorable.
1.
Don't worry people, there's absolutely nothing camp whatsoever about this show before you close the tab right there. This was one of the many shows that surprised me, especially after looking at the poster and prejudging it like most people with ignorance. So I gave this anime a shot, and I'm glad I did, because this show reeled me in with yet another otaku protagonist that can bike on a shitty ass granny bicycle. The main character is particularly at the butt of all the jokes that's in the show, ranging from getting run over, to singing embarrassing songs in public on his way to school. We get a juxtaposition of his character, who really does stick out a lot amongst all the characters and takes cycling very seriously. So seeing his dead serious interactions with our main protagonist Sakamichi being both hysterical and somewhat interesting, especially how Sakamichi can be so subtle about riding his bicycle to Akihabara, which is around 40 kilometers away from his school, and yet he's not to be fazed or overwhelmed by it whatsoever, as it's a daily occurrence that he normally goes through, like when he leaves school.